Stay with this story until the end. There is a confession there that bends the world back into its proper shape and proves that ordinary life can carry extraordinary love. Chapter 1. The Map Shop on Wren Street. The woman who tells this story prefers to be unnamed, though she is very much flesh and memory. She has walked the length of Wren Street when winter sunlight clings to window panes, and she remembers the day a famous face found shelter inside a tiny map shop where love was still done in pencil. Caleb Reed owned the shop, a narrow place stitched together by atlases, ship logs, and globes that spun slow as planets in their orbits. He had the look of someone who loved things that could not shout: ink, paper, quiet. Outside, the district stirred with tourists and bakers and the violinist who played even when it rained. Inside, time moved with the soft hush of turning pages. Marina Vale slipped through his door that afternoon, wearing a coat the color of wet sand and a pair of sunglasses that did little to hide who she was. Her fame arrived ahead of her like weather. She fingered a case of antique compasses with such reverence that Caleb forgot to be nervous. Then, with the stubbornness of real life, a fountain pen bled on her sleeve, a comet of ink across expensive wool. He apologized so thoroughly that she laughed, and he offered the back room and a bowl of cold water as if producing an old-world cure. While she scrubbed, he brought her a cotton shirt left from deliveries, and she emerged with damp cuffs and a smile that could unspool the tightest days. On the bell's faint tinkle she left, promising to return the shirt and offering a thank you so sincere it felt like a small promise of another weather front. Chapter R. Paper Moons and Public Shadows. She did return. The shirt, folded as if it were an apology, came back with a first edition of a travel diary she had found on a film set in Rome. It was a gift, she said, because she owed him more than dry cotton. He told her he could not accept it. She told him some things were not to be argued with. They compromised by allowing the book to live in the shop where anyone could read it, the way good fortune is sometimes better shared. Their second meeting led to a third, then to a street fair a week later where lanterns bloomed like paper moons. Caleb's sister, Tess, a blur of knit scarves and loud laughter, decided Marina was simply a person, someone with cold hands and a fondness for lemon tarts and poorly told jokes. She did not ask for autographs. She didn't need to, because it was more wonderful to watch Marina try a ring toss and fail gloriously. It was not a date, though it roamed close to one. Marina spoke of imaginary worlds that felt strangely heavy when cameras stopped, and Caleb spoke of maps that lied in charming ways, forgetting storms and greedily inventing sea monsters. Their conversation moved like tidewater, forward and back, gentle and relentless. When a photographer's flash burst from the dark, it startled the lanterns. Marina's body went still, the way people freeze when they remember they are being watched. Then she smiled, but this one had a seam of worry stitched through it, and the fair, so bright, so ordinary, tilted toward the difficult. Chapter 3. A Doorbell That Wouldn't Rest. In the week that followed, the doorbell at Wren Street rang like a small alarm. People came to buy maps and to peer. A tabloid printed a photograph, the famous Marina Vale tasting lemon sugar off her fingers beside a man in a faded sweater who could have been anyone and, increasingly, could not be. Caleb discovered how public a quiet life could suddenly become. A stranger asked how it felt to ruin a movie star. Another handed over a thriller to be signed, not by its author, but by the man who had lent a shirt. Marina called. Her voice apologized for being a hurricane in a room with delicate shelves. She wanted to meet without the clang of curiosity. They met in a botanical garden before opening hours, where the glass steamed and leaves glossed the air. She took his hands and said, "I like how time behaves with you." He, who had once measured hours by how long the kettle took, discovered that a minute can be a miracle. But fame does not negotiate, it posts notices. Marina's handler, an efficient woman with sharp pencils, arrived at the shop with a message dressed as advice: be invisible, be a secret, be grateful. It was a warning with teeth. Caleb tried to believe he could fold himself smaller and still be a man who fit his own life, but the doorbell rang and rang. He kissed Marina in the garden and promised patience. She promised to return when the world turned its camera elsewhere. Promises like those are the most beautiful and the least fair. Chapter 4. Detours. There are detours that become their own roads. The narrator, who has seen too many hearts learn the long way, watched Caleb attempt an ordinary future with Elena, a school librarian whose laugh sounded like pages riffled fast. They tried cafes and autumn walks, the domestic grace of comparing grocery lists. Elena was kind, she could have been a harbor. But harbors cannot be homes if one ship has, for the first time, seen deep water. Marina, meanwhile, played out her days in sped-up time. Red carpets, flights timed to the hour, an interview where, to avoid feeding something with claws, she said a line meant to protect them both. She called the man in the photograph a friend who once sold her a book. The clip traveled faster than news. Caleb watched it on his phone in the shop's back room and felt his chest tilt off its hinges. The pain wasn't in being dismissed, it was in how right she had been to say it and how wrong it felt to hear. A month later, a film poster the size of a house stretched across the side of a theater. Marina was luminous in it, looking left into a story that had nothing to do with him. The narrator, this woman who swears she is made of paper and rain, saw him stand on the opposite pavement a long time before he turned for home. Some loves go quiet because there is nothing else to say. Others go quiet because the world is too loud. Chapter 1: The Request. It was early spring when Marina returned, not to a premiere, but to Wren Street at an hour when the street sweepers still owned the pavement. The shop was closed, the bell did not quiver. She pressed her palms against the glass as if warmth were transferable through it. Caleb, already awake because sorrow had not let him sleep properly in weeks, saw the outline of her hand and knew it the way a sailor knows a coastline by scent. He opened the door. They did not kiss, they didn't know how to begin. Marina took a breath that seemed larger than her ribs could hold. "I am tired of living at the edge of my own life," she said. "I am tired of being edited. I have hurt you trying to protect something that keeps changing shape. May I ask for something that is both too much and so small it fits inside a moment?" He leaned against the counter where navigation charts made their quiet maps. "Ask," he said, without agreeing to give it. She asked to be allowed to stand in the middle of his morning. To pick a city on a map that neither of them had seen and imagine breakfast there. To be told he was angry if he was angry and hopeful if he was hopeful. To be forgiven, but not quickly. To earn the kind of ordinary that people mistake for dullness, though it is the bravest thing two people can choose. The world was still on the other side of the door. The narrator understood that sometimes the hardest part is not confession, but waiting for the answer. Caleb's answer was to unlock the cash drawer, because Thursday totals had to be counted, and he handed Marina a pencil with the tip freshly sharpened. "Help me add," he said. "We'll start here." Chapter 2: A Public Promise, a Private Life. If this were a different story, perhaps that would have been enough. Two people doing arithmetic on a Thursday, remaking the world in small divisions. But fame is a town crier with a permanent platform. Marina had a press day, scheduled before she had remembered how to stand inside a morning. She sent a message to Caleb through Tess, whose scarves tended toward victory flags. "Come if you can bear it. You don't have to. I only need to say something true with the door open." The press room was a nervous hive. Questions rose like heat. Marina sat at the long table with her handler flanking her and a row of lenses that blinked like mechanical animals. She took the first question, then asked for a minute to speak. In that minute, she built a small clearing. She said that what mattered to her now was not the story projected on buildings, but the one that could survive under an ordinary roof. She did not say his name. She did not need to. She looked to the back of the room where Caleb stood as if undecided between stay and go. The look was not a plea. It was a claim that did not own, a simple faith that they could walk out without pretending the world would not follow. They did. Outside, the sun made a plain day glitter. They did not run, though they might have wanted to. The narrator, who has lived long enough to know the price of certain choices, watched something settle between them, the kind of quiet that makes room for a future to speak up. In the months after, Wren Street changed in the ways neighborhoods do. A grocer retired, the violinist learned a stormy concerto, Tess opened a lunch place that sold soups named after clouds. The map shop added a scratched brass sign, "Ask us where to go." Marina bought a small flat directly above it, not to hide, but to have stairs to climb when evening asked for tea. They went to weddings they were invited to and to markets where nobody cared. They fought about all the true things, how long to keep the shop open on Sundays, whether to buy a car with a stubborn engine, when to rest. They learned each other's weather. On a dim evening, Marina held an old atlas on her lap and asked if cities ever get jealous of each other. Caleb said perhaps they do, and maybe that is why lights are left on late. When her work took her away, she went. When it brought her back, she did not apologize for leaving. He did not apologize for staying. This was their treaty, not written, but revised kindly when it frayed. The narrator, whose hands smell like paper even now, measures love in repairs rather than in breaks. By that measure, they were rich. One morning in early summer, tourists paused at the shop window to watch two figures laugh over the great lie of a medieval map that put dragons close enough to tea shops. The bell chimed. The world went on. And inside, where the serious work of being simple continued, Marina chose a city she had never seen. Caleb marked a route in pencil, light enough to erase, firm enough to follow. If this story moved you, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications so you never miss a new tale, give the video a like, leave a comment sharing your favorite moment, and share it with someone who believes in quiet, extraordinary love.